Most people think of André Ayew as decent, a hard-working winger, a reliable name in the Premier League, a familiar face in a Ghana shirt. But here's the truth that no one ever talks about. André Ayew is Ghana's all-time top scorer at the Africa Cup of Nations. Not Jan, not Abedi Pele, André Ayew. And yet, he's barely mentioned when we talk about Africa's greatest. Why? Because his greatness wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, it didn't come with headlines or hype, it came with scars. While others chased the spotlight, Ayew chased survival. From Marseille to Swansea, Fenerbahce to Al Sadd, he went where most players wouldn't because he refused to fade. This wasn't just a football career, it was a war of endurance. And Ayew, he bled for every minute. At 35, he is still fighting, still running, still standing. This is the untold story of a man who carried Ghana longer than we ever gave him credit for. André Ayew, the warrior we never truly saw. The streets of Accra don't forget. They don't care if you are a boy with a dream or the son of a king. And André Ayew, he was both. Before he ever laced up his boots professionally, his name echoed like prophecy. Son of Abedi Pele Ayew, African royalty, a 3-time African Footballer of the Year, the man who lit up the 1992 AFCON and conquered Europe with Marseille. From the moment André touched a ball, it began. He is good, but is he like his father? Can he live up to the name? In Ghana, the Ayew name isn't just fame, it is expectation. A blessing so heavy, it can crush you. But this isn't just a story of legacy. This is the battle of a boy becoming a man, carving his own name in blood and sweat across continents, cultures, and chaos. This is the story of a son chasing not just greatness, but freedom from the shadow of a legend. When André Ayew arrived at Olympic Marseille's youth academy, he wasn't seen as a prospect, he was seen as a prophecy. But Marseille is no fairy tale, it is a battlefield, and legacy meant nothing when the whistle blows. In his debut season, Ayew made just 15 appearances, each touch dissected, each mistake magnified. No space to grow, no room to fail quietly. But instead of breaking, he adapted. He left the pressure cooker and took the long road. Long spells at Lorient and Als Avignon. There, away from the weight of expectation, Ayew found something precious. Freedom to make mistakes, to experiment, to evolve. In League 2 with Als Avignon, he didn't set the league on fire, but he refined his fire in the quiet. 26 appearances, 4 goals, 3 assists, modest on paper, massive in meaning. It wasn't about stats, it was about survival. Then came the return. 2010, back to Marseille. This time, different, no longer a boy, now a weapon. 52 appearances, 13 goals. And then, the moment, 2011 Coupe de la Ligue final, Marseille hanging by a thread. Ayew steps forward, ice in his veins, and scores. The stadium explodes. The critics fall silent. That wasn't just a win, that was liberation. That night, under the roar of a nation, André Ayew didn't just score a goal, he broke the chains. Not from his past, but from everyone else's idea of who he was supposed to be. For André Ayew, club football was a career, but the Black Stars, that was identity, that was blood. Ghana wasn't just his home, it was purpose. And the national jersey wasn't just fabric, it was a flag he carried into battle. 2008, the debut. He was just 18 when he first stepped onto the continental stage at the 2008 African Cup of Nations. Still a boy, wearing a man's pressure. Ghana reached the semi-finals. They finished third, respectable, but for a country like Ghana, it wasn't enough. And for Ayew, who had been raised in the echo chamber of expectation, it felt like failure. 2009, the Under-20 World Cup, Ghana's greatest youth victory. Then came redemption. 2009, Egypt, the FIFA Under-20 World Cup. Ayew wasn't just a player, he was the captain, the heartbeat, the lion. Brazil stood in their way, 0-0 after 120 minutes. As Ayew walked up to take a spot kick, he wasn't just shooting for glory, he was shooting to rewrite history. He buried it, and when Ghana won, it wasn't just celebration, it was emancipation. Africa's first Under-20 World Cup triumph, and it was Ghana that delivered it. The photo of Ayew lifting the trophy, gold medal glinting, fist raised to the sky, it became legend. 2010, the World Cup, The night the continent wept. But fate doesn't care about fairy tales. 6 months later, Ghana reached the 2010 AFCON final. Ayew played like a warrior, but Egypt edged them 1-0. Another silver, another sting. Still, destiny had one more door to open. South Africa 2010, the 2010 World Cup, the first on African soil, and Ghana, with André Ayew in full flow, became the hope of an entire continent. They marched to the quarterfinals, their opponent, Uruguay. Then came that moment, in the dying seconds of extra time, a Ghana shot sailed towards goal until Luis Suarez threw his hand in the way. Red card, penalty. Asamoah stepped up, 40 million hearts pounded in sync. Crossbar, silent. In the shootout, Ghana fell, not just out of the tournament, but out of history. 2015, another final, another knife. Years passed, wounds scabbed, never healed. Then came the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations. Ayew was sensational, joint top scorer, relentless. Another final, another chance, but the ending was deja vu. Ghana vs Cote d'Ivoire. Penalties again, pain again. They lost again. Ayew stood tall on the podium, silver medal around his neck, but his eyes were hollow. He wasn't collecting medals anymore, he was collecting scars. For others, this would be the end, but Ayew kept coming back. Year after year, camp after camp. He didn't just play for Ghana, he bled for it. By 2024, the numbers told a story most ignored. 120 caps, the most in Ghana's history. 10 AFCON goals, more than Jan, more than Abedi Pele. And yet, his name never echoed like this. Because André Ayew didn't play to entertain, he played to deliver. Even when it hurt, even when it broke him. This wasn't just a career, it was a crusade. In the summer of 2015, André Ayew made a decision that would change everything. After nearly a decade in France, growing, learning, enduring, he left Marseille, not with fanfare, but with purpose. His next destination, England, the Premier League, the land of chaos, speed, and unforgiving spotlight. Swansea City took the gamble. Ayew turned it into gold. On his debut against Chelsea, Ayew didn't just score. He announced himself with a swagger, a turn, and a finish that screamed, "I belong here." By the end of that month, he wasn't just impressing, he was the player of the month. 12 goals in 35 games. For a first season in the Premier League, spectacular. But more than numbers, it was the way he played. Effortless touches, intelligent movement, a technician in a league obsessed with power. Even when Swansea started, Ayew shined, and the big clubs noticed. West Ham United, the record signing that broke too soon. In 2016, West Ham came calling, a £20.5 million fee, their most expensive signing ever. A leap in money, a leap in expectation, a leap in pressure, and then disaster. His very first match, thigh injury, out for 2 months. Momentum gone, confidence shaken, rhythm nowhere to be found. He returned, he fought, but 6 goals in 26 appearances told a real story. Ayew had landed in London, but never found his feet. Whether it was the system, the spotlight, or the suffocating expectations, it didn't fit. Back to Swansea, a step back or a step right. In January 2018, he returned to where it all clicked, Swansea. To outsiders, it looked like regression. To Ayew, it was about finding peace. But football doesn't wait for redemption arcs. Swansea were in trouble. They went down, relegated. And suddenly, Ayew, Ghana's golden boy, former Premier League sensation, was staring down a choice no top player wants to make. Live and chase glory elsewhere, or stay and fight in the mud. The Championship, where leaders are forged. Ayew went on loan to Fenerbahce, a brief reprieve, but something was calling him back. Not to the Premier League, but to the trenches. In 2019, while others ran, Ayew returned to the Championship. No lights, no glamour. Just cold night in Barnsley and Brentford. And Ayew didn't just survive, he dominated. 31 goals across 2 brutal seasons, dragging Swansea to 2 straight playoff pushes, falling just short of promotion, but never off effort. He didn't mourn, he didn't beg for a move, he led. In the press, he spoke like a man who had been through it all. Injuries, criticisms, setbacks, and had come out grounded. The love of the game is what keeps me going, he said. The stage doesn't matter, the badge does. Swansea fans saw the truth. He wasn't there for image, he was there for war. And for once, the narrative didn't need a trophy. The performance was enough. By 2021, André Ayew had nothing left to prove, and yet he wasn't done writing. At 31, many assumed the move to outside in Qatar marked the beginning of the end. The sun setting on a long journey, a payday before retirement. But Ayew was never one to follow football-style scripts. In Qatar, he didn't slow down. He lit it up. 19 goals in just 31 appearances. A league title, a cup, another trophy-laden chapter. Yes, but more importantly, proved that his hunger hadn't faded. In a league many overlook, Ayew's game intelligence and instinct stood taller than ever. While others saw an exit route, he saw a new proving ground. Then, in early 2023, the unthinkable, Ayew returned to England, not to a top 6 side, but to a club fighting to survive, Nottingham Forest. He wasn't brought in to be the star, he was brought in to be the voice, the steady hand, the old warrior in a young dressing room. Goals were rare, minutes were limited, but presence unmistakable. Every training session, every tactical meeting, every substitution off the bench, Ayew gave everything, because for him, goals were rare, minutes were limited, but presence unmistakable. Every training session, every tactical meeting, every substitution off the bench, Ayew gave everything. Because for him, being part of the fight was still worth more than sitting comfortably in the shadows. October 2023, a new chapter. Le Havre, quiet, historic, grounded. A world away from the glamour of the Premier League or the chaos of Qatari football. But for Ayew, it was a return, not just to France, but to himself. He didn't come to retire, he came to compete. And in March 2024, he reached a milestone that meant more than it looked on paper. 50 League One goals, a number that spoke to longevity, not hype, to substance, not trends, to a man that never chased headlines, just impact. And still, through it all, Ayew never turned his back on Ghana. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar marked his third appearance on football's grandest stage. And though Ghana's run ended early, Ayew's presence endured, not just as a player, but as a symbol of consistency, of resilience, of carrying a nation's hope for over a decade. In his 30s, Ayew wasn't playing for fame anymore. He wasn't proving doubters wrong. He was living out his own rhythm, guided not by contracts or cameras, but by something deeper: pride, purpose, and peace. In interviews, he said it plainly: legacy isn't just what you win, it is who you become. And by 2024, few could argue, because André Ayew had become something more than a goal scorer or a captain. He had become a blueprint for how to last, for how to lead, for how to live a football life on your own terms. André Ayew's numbers speak for himself. Over 50 goals for Marseille, more than 118 in domestic leagues, 120 caps for Ghana, 24 international goals, a World Cup captain, an Under-20 World Cup champion, and Ghana's all-time top scorer in the African Cup of Nations. But if you stop at the stats, you miss the story, because Ayew's legacy was never built in box scores or highlight reels. It was carved in quiet moments, in lonely recoveries, in painful eliminations, in courageous returns. Born into greatness, he could have coasted on a name, Abedi Pele's son. That alone was enough to open doors. But Ayew never wanted doors opened for him. He wanted to kick them down himself, and he did. Not as a copy of a legend, but as his own man, his own story, his own scars. 8 African Cup of Nations tournaments, 3 World Cups, 16 years of putting on the Black Stars jersey, not for fame, not for applause, but for duty. Even when titles slipped away, even when Ghanaian fans doubted, even when the heartbreaks piled up, he never stopped coming back, because some players chased medals, but Ayew chased meaning. France, England, Turkey, Qatar. Back to France. Each league demanded something different. Different tactics, different cultures, different climates. But Ayew didn't just survive. He adapted. He learned. He led. In every locker room, on every continent, he left behind something deeper than goals. Respect. He never lifted the African Cup. That pain will linger. Not just for him, but for a nation that believed in him. But leadership isn't measured in trophies. It is measured in how many battles you fight when no one else wants to. And in that, Ayew was a giant. From that golden summer of 2009 as Under-20 captain to the dark winters after painful defeats, he stood tall. He took the bullets and he kept walking. The man who chose the hard way. Loans, injuries, relegation, criticisms. He saw it all. Most would have folded, disappeared, played it safe, but Ayew kept chasing. kept fighting, kept believing there was more to write because he knew something most players forget. Your career is not what happens to you, it is what you become through it. In an era where footballers are tracked by data, points and heat maps, Ayew reminds us of what the game is really about. Sacrifice, grit, heart. He reminds us that greatness isn't just about goals. It's about going again when you have every reason to stop. It's about giving everything, even when the world doubts you. Especially then, André Ayew's greatest victory was never a trophy. It was this, born under the heaviest shadow in Ghanaian football, refused to be defined by it. Instead, he walked through it, and in the process, he became light himself, not just for his family, not just for his country, but for every young footballer who dreams of writing their own story. Because Ayew didn't just follow a legacy, he built one.